most recipes. Feel free to do so at osamashawarmalover47@gmail.com. Anyway, let me tell you the story, or at least the non-American version of how I may or may not have destroyed their beautiful towers. It was an ordinary day. I was just eating some of Lafa's amazing shawarmas. You should try some, by the way. And I had some oil barrels with me. Suddenly, out of nowhere, in the sky, I see a bunch of planes. And then on the speakers, I hear, "This is the United States of America. I see oil and it's now under our possession." How rude, I thought. And then next thing you know, I'm on that plane with all my oil barrels. I decided to get on the roof with the help of some shawarmas I had in my pocket. And then when American people tried to get on the top and then tried to push me off, I spilled some karak chai on them. You never underestimate hot, steaming hot karak chai. Then I used my abilities and steered the plane into what I thought was an abandoned building. Spoiler alert, it was not. And next thing you know, America got its new bedtime story. We have a terrorist that crashed into 2 planes and may or may not have reduced your dad's gas prices. But enough about my professional life. Let me tell you about my personal life. Number 1, don't ask me how I had 14 children. I have no idea. And number 2, I must tell you the story of one of my children. He became an artist. How proud I was. I totally did not beat him for that. But anyway, I have come to learn from this meme-filled generation that it's perfectly normal. Let's just hope he does not fail hard at school. Because I read about some guy who did, and he did something even worse than what I did. Anyway, that is pretty much all. I wish I could tell you more, but then there are probably some American spies here who are going to say, "No, this is not that, that is not this." Anyway, I hope I have given you my perspective, because the American side, well, it's just Western propaganda. I can't really do anything about it. Thank you. Good.
Keep going, shawarma man.
Shawarma.
Next speaker. Let's welcome our next speaker,
It's just stop, okay.
Kyra.
I am the most famous explorer. I was born in Genoa, 1471, a town in Italy, and I became the most famous navigator. And I was interested in ships when I was a young boy. And I got married and settled in Lisbon. And I had a place where I made various sea voyages. And I gained excellent skills as a navigator. And I stated my ambition as gold, Gaur and Kate. By gold, he meant he could bring back the fortune he could make by bringing back spices and silks from foreign countries. And I was referring to my desire by spreading Christianity to non-Christianity like countries, and in the name of God. Kate was an ancient name for China, and I was obsessed with the Far East, and I was desperate to lead an expedition there.
Now next. Diya.
My name is Diya, and today I will be presenting a monologue from Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar. I will be Mark Antony at his funeral. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good oft interred with their bones, and so let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus had told you he was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously had Caesar answered it. Here under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honourable man, and so are they all honourable men. Come I to speak at Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honourable man. He hath brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did our general coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? When the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honourable man. You all did see on the Lupercal, I thrice presented him with the kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Is this ambition? And sure, Brutus is an honourable man, yet he says Caesar was ambitious. I speak not to disprove of what Brutus spoke, but to speak of what I do know. You all did love him once, not without cause. Now what cause withholds you to mourn for him? Oh, judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me, for my heart is in that coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it comes back.
Okay, next.
That was brilliant.
That was awesome.
Let's call the next person.
Mihika.
Do your best, okay? No tensions.
Would you rather live a long life and be forgotten, or live a short life and be remembered by all? That was what they told me when I could barely speak. They claimed it was my prophecy. When the war came, if I joined, I'd be remembered by all. My name would be spoken for centuries. it would be sung in poems and spoken in stories. It would be remembered. But if I stayed back, it'd be forgotten. I'd live a safe, long life, but I'd be forgotten. I'd be unimportant. So when war came, I joined. I was the greatest warrior. I could kill hundreds. I tipped the winning scale. I brought the Greeks glory. I was almost invincible. Except for my heel, I was almost invincible. But that was not what made me, me. It was my decision. It was my choice of choosing glory over safety. It was the price I had to pay for doing so. I was a prideful, stubborn, egotistic man. And once I was disrespected, I refused to fight. I refused to fight in the war. And the Greeks began losing without me. My best friend Patroclus, he started getting worried. He tried to push me to join the war. But I, being stubborn, refused. And eventually he put on my armor and strode into the battlefield dressed as me. Later that evening, I received his lifeless corpse for a proper burial. I was told Hector killed him. He killed him. The next day, I re-entered the battlefield. I became a slaughtering machine. I killed anyone in my way. And when I found Hector, I killed him. I dragged his corpse around the battlefield multiple times. But mercy found me. Later, when the battle had ceased for the day, Hector's father found me. He begged me to give his corpse back for a proper burial. And I did so. I sat beside him as we grieved. I mourned for my friend and he mourned for his son. Later, after this day, I was killed when Paris shot an arrow through my heel. As I died, I realized something. Pride will destroy, and love will heal. And that even the strongest man has a weakness. I got the glory I asked for. My name will be remembered. But at what cost? Dying as an angry, grieving man? Thank you.
Oh my God,
That was
that's
awesome.
so good.
Next is
Maharani.
Aadya. Clap, guys, clap.
A beautiful woman meets a king and they live happily ever after. Well, not really, because I'm here to tell you my story. I am Jind. I was just a girl from Gujranwala when I entered the court of lions, a consort to the great Ranjit Singh. But when death stole him and blood stained the throne, it was I who stood firm. They called me regent, but I was more. I ruled Punjab with fire in my eyes and the Khalsa at my back. They feared the woman who would not yield. But when the British seized my power in 1846, they thought that silence would silence me. And thus, I made a plot. And thus came the Premila plot. With trusted allies, disillusioned Sardars and Prema, a Brahmin warrior once loyal to Gulab Singh, we made a plan to strike Henry Rollins and Tej Singh during the grand celebration at the Shalimar Gardens. The plot failed when it was discovered by the British. With no proof, they still punished me, cutting off my pension, moving me to a fortress in Shekhapura, and finally exiling me from Punjab. They feared what I represented, a queen who still commanded loyalty despite being in chains. And so they brought me down. They thought a fortress, iron guards, even British guards could silence me, the Maharani of the Punjab. And thus, I planned my escape. In the dead of night, I shed my silks for rags, smeared dust on my face, and escaped the empire. Silently. 8,000 miles I walked, not to flee, but to rise again. Each step was a vow. They stole my kingdom, my heart, my throne, even my son, but they did not steal my spirit, because I am Jind. Disguised in rags, I walked to an empire where they could not reach me. And when I finally found my son, anglicized and orphaned of the memory, I gave him back his story. They call me dangerous, unruly, even defiant, and I am, because I am Jind Kaur, Maharani of the Punjab. They stole my kingdom, but not my spirit.
Woo! Let's go. Who's next? Jannah.
Why are you praying to me? Prathana. Yeah, Prathana. My God. She's so wow. No, I'm saying wow in a good way.
Have you heard my name before? I'm Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt, the last pharaoh, the woman with the perfect eyeliner. Let me tell you something your history books forgot to mention. I'm not just famous for my looks or my love stories. I'm famous because I'm smart. But let me tell you one of the big moments where I had to really step up as a ruler. One year, the Nile, the great heart of Egypt, did not flood. And no water means no crops. And no crops means no food. And no crops means no food. So my people were terrified, and honestly, so was I. I didn't know what to do, but instead of crying like any other ruler or throwing some coins and blaming the gods, I sat there, I learned, I studied, and I knew how to think ahead. You see, we had some grains stored, so instead of selling all of it, I sold a part of it at a smart cost and used that money to buy medicine, supplies, etc. Whatever we needed to survive the drought. And I helped Egypt while all the other countries were falling down. I stood up while all of the other rulers were crying about it. So next time next time you think of Cleopatra, don't just think of a girl who's just sitting there and telling people what to do. Think of a strong, independent ruler standing there leading the country to success. Think of someone who stood tall saying, we will not fall, we will rise together. Because that's what a queen does. I didn't just lead with my crown, I led with my spirit. Thank you.
Let's go. Who's next?
This guy.
I'm scared. Okay, I did. I'm next. Okay, I have some. It was March 30th of 1853 when I was born. I am the oldest among 6 children, and I was born in an era where there were sunflowers and nature, and an era with no social media and cars. My name is Vincent Van Gogh, and I will tell you my story. When I grew up, I was part of a privileged family in the Netherlands, and I was rich. Yet people decided to call me the red-headed madman of Netherlands. And regardless of my privilege, I had nothing to my name. The only meals I used to have were alcohol, bread, and cigarettes. I only used to have 6 meals a day. 6 meals per year. It became to a point where my teeth were loose and started to even wiggle. Now, regardless of how I was seen as crazy, I still decided to take art. But before painting, I went on another path, a spiritual path. I used to be a religious person, and I was planning on becoming a pastor. But my religion decided not to choose me because that job failed. And as a last resort, I decided to go to art. Now, this is a famous painting called The Starry Night, where there is the moon and the sunrise both at the same time. But what people don't know is I painted this in a mental asylum. I have people studying me, telling me that I have epilepsy, bipolar disorder, delirium, mania, and many more mental illnesses. But have they ever seen what the inner Van Gogh feels? Have they ever seen how I was while I was growing up? Did they ever know who my friends were, even though I didn't have friends? What if I had some spiritual friends? Did they know how I got into religion? Or did they know how I got into art? Well, the thing is, I was lonely. And the one time I had a friend, his name was Gauguin. And because of that friend, I was betrayed. You see, this is my ear, and it was chopped off. Yet nobody knows the story behind my chopped ear. Chopped ears aren't a common thing, but the only time it happened, when it was to me, nobody decided to talk about it. There are still theories saying I chopped off my own ear. There are theories saying that I was suicidal. But nobody ever came to me and asked, "What happened to your ear, Vincent?" Now, before I die, and I'm gonna die at a very young age, I will not be able to see how I am when I'm older. I will not be able to see any children that I can call my own. And I will not be able to contact my family when I die because I live alone. I was kicked out from my own town because I was the quote unquote redhead madman. They called me crazy. They called me an awful person. But I have never had somebody visit to my house with a genuine reaction, with giving me genuine comfort, or anybody trying to welcome me instead of calling me crazy. And before I die, my last words are, the sadness will last forever.
Wow. Nice. Who's next? Yes. Done.
हमारे speaker can you
What should I say? You decide.
I have myself full confidence that if all do their duties, if nothing is neglected, and the best arrangements are made, then we shall once again prove ourselves be able to defend our islandhood, to ride out the storm of war, and to outlive the tyranny of the menace of tyranny. The menace of tyranny. If necessary, for years, if necessary, alone. At this rate, that is what we are going to try to do. That is the resolve of His Majesty's government, every man of them. We shall fight on beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight on the fields and in the streets, we shall fight on hills, we shall never surrender. And even if, which I do not believe for a moment, this island or a large part of it became subjugated and starved, then our empire overseas, guarded and controlled by the British fleets, may carry on the struggle until, in God's good time, the new world, with all its might and power, steps forth and liberates the world. Thank you.
Next is Vaishak.
Only you left.
Yeah, only Vaishak. Come on.
So, you've heard the stories, right? Genghis Khan, the ruthless warlord, destroyer of cities, the man who left bones across half the world. But where did my story actually begin? Before the world called me Genghis Khan, I was just Temujin, a boy born in the open grasslands of Mongolia. My father was a tribal chief, and while we weren't rich or wealthy, we had a name, a place. But then one day, everything changed. My father was poisoned by an enemy tribe. And after he died, his loyal allies that pledged that they would follow him to the ends of the world betrayed us. They left us in a forest and never came back. We were stranded, we starved. We dug for roots, trapped mice, and wrapped ourselves in anything we could find just to survive the harsh, cold winter. And that's when I learned hardship teaches you fast. No one was coming to save us, and no one is going to help. If we wanted anything in the world, we had to take it, even if it was by force. When I was a teenager, I was captured and made a slave by another tribe. I was tied up and bound like an animal and forced into extreme labor. But then I escaped, and from that moment on, I promised myself, never again. I united the Mongol tribes. I gathered outcasts, former enemies, and people who had nothing, like me. Together, we united the Mongol tribes. It took years of battle, sacrifice, and betrayals. But finally, in the end, we did it. Here's the thing. After we united them, they gave me a new name, Genghis Khan. It means universal ruler. And from then on, the world changed. I defeated armies bigger than mine, destroyed kingdoms that thought they were untouchable. I didn't conquer, I ruled. I made fair laws that ensured everybody had a chance. I gave freedom to slaves, rights to women, and guess what? Even the poorest man in my kingdom could rise if he had the metal. Now, when you think about me, you think about some monster, a feared person who has committed extreme war crimes. But did you ever think about my side of the story? I wanted to be fair, and I had to be fierce. If I wanted to rule a kingdom fairly,
then I couldn't be just some random bystander who just sat on the throne and gave orders without knowing what they actually did. I was fair. And so the next time you think about Genghis Khan, don't think about some random ruler who loved killing people. Think about a fair monarch who governed regardless of race or gender. Thank you.